All right, our final video of the chapter, termination. All right. If you ever have to hold a termination meeting, like I said, you're the terminator in this scenario. First thing you want to make sure that before you go into termination that all legal things have been met, because you don't want to wait until after termination and then see that it went bad and now you're in court and you're scrambling around trying to find everything. Make sure you've got all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted before you go into the termination meeting. Decide how much help you want to offer the employee. So when terminating somebody, you might have access to resources. Minimally, you might say, I could write you a letter of recommendation, or maximally, you might say, we've got a severance package, or you have to decide how much help you want to offer to the employee and have that locked and loaded and ready to offer when you go into the meeting. It's best to choose a neutral and private place, so not the employee's office, let's say, not the HR department head's office where nobody wants to go to HR. So maybe there's an office that nobody uses, or a conference room or something, but private. Like if the conference room is a fishbowl, probably don't do it there. So try and find a neutral and private place where a door can be shut. Plan enough time for the meeting. So however long you think it'll take, probably double it at least, because you never know. It might go sideways, or you might need to explain more or show papers or things that you weren't expected to be held accountable for. So just give yourself plenty of time. Don't be checking your watch because you got your next person to fire. You want to make sure that each meeting has the appropriate amount of time. The best thing to do is schedule the meeting in the middle of the week. It's a less... what do you call it? It's like less busy on in the middle of the week. People aren't frantically trying to get stuff done in time for the weekend. They aren't dragging in from the weekend. Middle of the week is just sort of like the easiest time to meet, and it's also like the least stressful time of the week. So what do you do in a termination meeting? Get to the point. Hemming and hawing and chitting and chatting, and when this person knows that they've been called to talk to you because something's up, get to the point. Rationally state the reasons for the decision. I'll give the example. I don't think my daughter will mind if I tell this story. She was headhunted by a marketing firm in Seattle. She had been a marketing student at UW, and that's how she met the people who ran the place. And when they had a position available, they reached out to her where she was working at the time and brought her in. And she was over the moon working for this place. And so it involved writing a lot of copy and a lot of things really fast, and being in someone else's voice when you wrote it. So it was a task. It was difficult, but marketers have to be able to do stuff like that. So she was hired with a 90-day probationary period, and on day 89, they called her in and had the termination meeting. And the person running the meeting got right to the point. I'm really sorry to have to tell you this, but we're going to have to let you go. And they said, you write really, really well. We love the things that you produce, but we are very fast moving and we need your stuff faster. And we've told you that, and it's not getting any faster. It's getting better, but it's not faster. And so we have to let you go. They expressed a lot of gratitude to her. I have to say they were very nice. My poor little girl, she calls me crying. It's her first job out of college. She's so sad. And but they were really nice, expressed a lot of gratitude to her work and her effort, and told her, her future was bright, just not in this kind of fast moving, have to write it fast kind of situation. The boss, the owner of the company, said, I will support you in whatever endeavors you have in the future. I really want you to be successful, just not here. You can't do it fast enough. I would be more than happy. And actually, he ended up serving as her mentor for the next few years as she started her own little boutique marketing company herself. And so he provided they had meetings, and she bounced ideas, and she was thinking about just forget it. I'm just going to get another, office job and not start my own business. And he goes, nope, I can't let you do it. You got to do your own thing. And I got to tell you, 10 years later, her business is flourishing. So he gave her really good advice. And what assistance did he give her? He met her for lunch a couple of times and gave her advice, right? But that meant the world to her. It really helped. I mean, there was a moment where she almost gave up on her dream, and he talked her off the ledge. And so, it was an awful experience. In fact, she got fired the week before she got married. So she's like, "Oh my gosh, should I get married? Should I go on my honeymoon? What am I gonna?" I'm like, "Sweet pie, everything's already paid for. So try and forget about it for a week, and then come back and find a job." And then I didn't know she was going to start her own business and do even better. But anyway, other situations, maybe that person's worked for a long time and there's severance pay to offer. Maybe, in this sort of circumstance like I'm describing, where you're not firing the person because they're an awful employee, but you're firing the person because they're not a good fit for your company. Maybe a recommendation makes a lot of sense, right? We're not mad at you. It's not working, right? So a recommendation makes a lot of sense. Offering a recommendation to somebody who has been a terrible employee is not a good idea. Don't offer a recommendation to a person like that. People do that a lot. Organizations will give recommendations to somebody just to get them out of the building. Like, whatever it takes to get you to get out of here is what I'll do. And so they know full well that this person should not be recommended, but they'll do it. That is not a good idea, but people do it. And then, of course, there are administrative things that you have to do. You have to, there's paperwork to fill out, and you have to get them off of the insurance, and you have to offer them COBRA, and you have to do all these things as part of the termination meeting. So don't forget that stuff. And you got to get all those administrative things taken care of and give them a chance to clear out their desk, things like that. And so, and ask them to leave. Wednesdays are a better day to do. Tuesday, Wednesday are better days to do this than, let's say, Monday when they're going to be blindsided, or Friday when they're going to be taking the walk of shame. It's kind of better to do this in the middle of the week. Oh, look, we just had a termination meeting. Look how good we feel about it. After the meeting, the person who had to fire somebody has to maintain their self-esteem. The person who just got fired needs to maintain their self-esteem. So when I say you're in that, I mean everybody needs to do that part. The person who had to do the firing, they need to protect themselves from feeling guilty about it by reviewing the facts. There was a reason why that termination had to happen. And so a lot of times it's important to, maybe you just had a really positive termination meeting and you walked out looking happy like these two people. And then you're like, why did we fire that person? But you have to go back and look at the facts. There's a reason why this happened. And then other employees might be impacted by this. They might be, that's their friend, just got fired. Or they might be thinking, okay, so now we're in a hiring circumstance. Who's picking up all this slack in the meantime while we're trying to get somebody else in here to get trained and then start doing the job? So we have to help the other employees cope with the loss of their coworker, how we're going to redivide work until we can get someone else in here. You have to be honest with those employees about what happened, and you want to try and get out ahead of what we call the water cooler whispers, where people sort of are passing around gossip. Oh, it's the beginning of layoffs, or other destructive things that can make good employees start job searching because they're worried that everything's going under or something. And so you want to get out in front of it and be as honest as you can. We had to let that person go because they weren't writing copy fast enough. That's the thing. Avoid negative public statements about the fired employee's character. They were lazy. They had an attitude, things like that. You don't want to say stuff like that, but it's fair to say we had to let them go because they weren't writing copy fast enough. That's a fact. That's you. If you ever worry about defamation claims, the best defense against a defamation claim is it's the truth. And here's our evidence, right? So don't say negative things about the person, but it's okay to be honest about the facts. And then, of course, a lot of downstream effects may occur from losing an employee, right? So you have to notify all the different organizational units within the organization that might be impacted by the loss of that one employee. So, like I said, hopefully if there's ever a termination meeting in your future, it involves you firing someone else and not you being fired. But hopefully if you do ever find yourself on the wrong side of a termination meeting, it goes positively and, they handle it well. So hopefully you feel like we at least touched on most of these things. If not, read your book because it goes into those things in more detail. All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking about performance appraisal, and I will see you in the next chapter.